The history of ancient Egypt is one of the most intriguing eras in human history, which has been researched for thousands of years. There is much conjecture regarding what ancient Egyptians actually looked like. Even though we have many surviving artifacts from this time period, there is a common trope in Western drama where Egyptians have light complexion or dark hair. Is that really the case though? Alternatively, did ancient Egyptians have a black race? You're now watching A Secret World. So without any further ado, let's start digging into the ancient Egyptian records to see what we can explore. The ancient Egyptians' racial identity has been a contentious topic of discussion for a very long time. The researchers were able to shed light on the ancestry of the ancient Egyptians by using the genetic information that was acquired from mummies. Ancient Egyptian literature, artworks, and mummies provide historical evidence suggesting that ancient Egypt was always racially varied and could not be classified as belonging to any racial category. This conclusion can be drawn from the fact that ancient Egyptians were mummified. However, it is important to remember that there was no racial categorization based on skin tone in ancient Egypt. Instead, they merely grouped themselves according to the geographical regions in which they lived. Since at least the 1970s, several individuals, including Egyptologists, writers, scholars, and others, have debated the race of the ancient Egyptians. Some people believe that they originated in sub-Saharan Africa. This interpretation was depicted in the music video that Michael Jackson released in 1991 for Remember the Time, which was taken from his Dangerous album. The performance video, which is a short film lasting 10 minutes, has appearances by Eddie Murphy and Magic Johnson. Reactionaries, however, maintain that there have never been any great black civilizations, which is, of course, a complete and utter fabrication. In actuality, there were a number of highly developed African empires and kingdoms throughout the course of history. In bizarre events, some extremist groups on the right have even exploited blood type data to assert that King Tutankhamun and his brethren originated in the Nordic region. It was supposed that the issue was that the DNA from the mummies could not be sequenced. However, a group of scholars from a variety of countries throughout the world has succeeded in doing so by overcoming the obstacles by utilizing novel approaches. They discovered that the people of the Near East, particularly those from the Levant, were the most genetically connected to the ancient Egyptians. This part of the Mediterranean is known as the Eastern Mediterranean and is home to the nations of Turkey, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. During the time that Egypt was ruled by the Romans, the mummies that were used dated back to the New Kingdom, as well as a later period, one that occurred after the Middle Kingdom. According to a study that was published in the journal Nature Communications, modern Egyptians share 8% of their genome with people from Central Africa. This is significantly more than the ancient Egyptians did. The introduction of genes from sub-Saharan Africa has only taken place in the past 1,500 years. It's possible that the trans-Saharan slave trade was to blame for this, or it could just be the result of regular long-distance trade between the two regions. According to the experts, increasing trade with the interior resulted from improved mobility on the Nile during this period. In ancient history, Egypt fell under the control of several different empires, including those of Alexander the Great, the Greeks, the Romans, the Arabs, and others. Researchers were interested in determining whether or not the continuous influx of new people into a population over a long period of time created any significant genetic shifts in that population. The genetics of the Abuser El Melek community did not undergo any major shifts during the 1,300-year time span we studied, said Wolfgang Hack, the group leader at the Max Planck Institute in Germany, in a press release. This suggests that the population remained genetically relatively unaffected by foreign conquest and rule. Johannes Krauss, an archaeogeneticist also affiliated with the Max Planck Institute, served as the study's leader. Since the beginning of time, archaeologists have struggled to extract whole DNA from ancient Egyptian mummies. According to the findings of the study, the hot heat of Egypt, the high humidity levels in many tombs, and some of the chemicals employed in mummification procedures all contribute to DNA degradation, which makes the long-term survival of DNA in Egyptian mummies seem doubtful. It was also considered possible that the genetic material, even if it were to be recovered, would not be reliable. In spite of this, Cross and his colleagues have been able to develop reliable methods for DNA sequencing and verification, and they have finished the first successful genomic testing on ancient Egyptian mummies. Each one originated from the archaeological site of Abuzer el-Melik, which is located on the Nile about 115 kilometers, 70 miles, south of Cairo. There is a cemetery there that is home to mummies with characteristics that indicate they were dedicated to the cult of Osiris, the deity of the afterlife, and had green skin. First, samples of the mitochondrial genomes were extracted from all 90 of the mummies. As a result of these, Cross and his colleagues discovered that they could obtain the entirety of the genomes from a total of just 3 of the mummies. Samples of teeth, bone, and soft tissue were collected by the researchers for this investigation. The majority of DNA was found in the teeth and bones. They were shielded from harm by the soft tissue that had been embalmed in order to maintain its state of preservation. These samples were brought back to a laboratory in Germany by the researchers. They started by cleaning and disinfecting the space. After that, in order to sanitize the samples, they exposed them to ultraviolet radiation for 1 hour. They were able to sequence DNA after gaining access to that location. To put the researchers' findings into perspective, the scientists also gathered information on the history of Egypt and archaeological evidence from northern Africa. They were interested in learning about the shifts that had taken place throughout the years. They matched the genomes of the mummies to those of 100 current Egyptians and 125 Ethiopians in order to figure out the answer. Cross stated that there has been unbroken genetic continuity for the past 1,300 years. The oldest mummy yet sequenced dates back to the New Kingdom, which began 1,388 years before the Common Era, BCE, at which time Egypt was at the pinnacle of its power and grandeur. The most recent one dates back to 426 CE, which was during the time that Rome had control over the nation. It is a significant success that we have now reached the point where we can gather genomic data on ancient Egyptians. This opens up new lines of inquiry. According to their research, one limitation is that all of our DNA data were collected from a single site in Middle Egypt and may not be representative for all of ancient Egypt. This statement was made about the fact that the data came from just one location. They claim that because southern Egypt is closer to the interior of the continent than the rest of Egypt, the individuals who lived there may have had a different genetic makeup. In the future, researchers hope to pinpoint exactly when genes from sub-Saharan Africa began to appear in the Egyptian genome and the reasons for this phenomenon. They will also be interested in learning the ancient Egyptians' origins. In order to accomplish this, scientists will need to locate ancient DNA from back further in time, in prehistory, as Cross put it. In spite of the harsh environment and the destructive embalming processes, researchers demonstrated that they were able to obtain trustworthy DNA from mummies by using high-throughput DNA sequencing and cutting-edge authentication techniques. Additional testing will very certainly provide a great deal of knowledge to our understanding of ancient Egyptians, as well as possibly even those from other places and times, so assisting in the filling in of gaps in humanity's collective memory. According to the findings of scholarly research, the people of Egypt had a wide variety of skin tones, including those that we now refer to as white, brown, and black. However, this is something that is still up for discussion. Many people are under the impression that different parts of Egypt, such as Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Nubia, had distinctively diverse skin tones. Due to the fact that ancient Egyptians have been around for over 3,000 years, it is also quite possible that there have been changes in ethnicity throughout this lengthy period of time. That's all for the video. If you want to explore more such videos, then all you have to do is give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.